everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the Colossus Initiative podcast. My name is Matt. As you can see, I fulfilled my promise from the first show and I got a haircut and my beard trimmed. So hope the hope the visual side of it is a little better. What I wanted to talk about today, as promised, as we mentioned in the first episode, or as I mentioned in the first episode, what I'd like this podcast to be is just a sharing of either personal anecdotes or stories and real life situations and how they tie into the Colossus mindset. And today I was thinking about a recent time when I went running, and it was actually a pretty funny story. So it was raining quite heavily outside and I did not feel like going for a run. There are days when you do, and there are days when you're hyped and you're tying your shoes excitedly, and then you reach a personal record, and that was not one of those days. It was a day when I was looking outside and I did not feel like going. And I really, really easily found a lot of excuses for making myself a cup of tea, watching some Netflix with my wife. We're watching Modern Family right now in the evenings. But I went anyway, and I thought that would help. I thought, I conquered myself, and now I have this whole disciplined mood going, and I'm not listening to the voice of comfort in my head. But I was wrong. I have this park just outside my apartment, and running a lap through it is 2 kilometers. And that day I wanted to go running for 6, so 3 laps. And I usually, when I go running, it takes me maybe a half a kilometer or a kilometer. I might be feeling a little lethargic, my breathing might be a bit difficult, but I somehow get into the zone, and then I usually run my standard 7 to 8 kilometers. That's my normal distance when I go running. That day, my body was not having it at all. The first kilometer was tough, so I was thinking, okay, now is when it gets easy. It did not get easy. As I was running the lap and I was finishing the lap, I came right next to the entrance of the park. And the entrance to the park is right next to my house, so I had a really, really, really convenient place to stop running. And I could hear this voice in my head, and it was saying, it's raining, you didn't want to go running either, but you went anyway. So you already conquered yourself, you already did something that's good for you. You challenged yourself, but 2 kilometers, that's enough. I would leave it here. Why are you running? And all these voices, I could go on, and I could make this how long was I running for? Like a 30-minute video of the different excuses that come to mind. It's actually quite creative. I'm usually quite surprised at what my mind creates as an excuse. It was even telling me like, oh, your knee is hurting and you had an operation on your knee 2-3 years ago. You should really take it easy, even though my knee hasn't been an issue in a while. So I conquered that voice, and I entered the park again, and I went on another 2-kilometer lap. And it got a bit easier. The voice faded, sort of. I got the feeling that it understood that I'm running one more lap, so there's no real reason to expend energy negotiating with me. Me, I would mean the higher self, or the more disciplined self, the one that knows what it needs to do and does it, right? So you can already guess we're talking about resolve a little bit here. So the voice quieted. I was running the second lap, so kilometers 3 and 4. And at the end of this second lap, as the voice started picking up steam again, is when I had the insight that I want to share with you. When I'm thinking about discipline or resolve or willpower, to me, it always seemed before this run like 2 equally matched voices, right? And one is the voice of comfort. One is the one that's doesn't want you to get hurt. I mean, it doesn't want to do you harm. Its intention isn't that you don't progress in life, or that you're lazy, or that you don't eat well, or whatever undisciplined things it wants you to do. It's there to protect you. So that's the one voice. And it's always going to be there. We can quiet it with regular discipline. We can quiet it by not screwing with our dopamine receptors and many different things that we'll get into over the course of these podcasts, but it's there. That's the thing. And then there's the other voice. And the other voice is the disciplined self, as I used to see it. It's the self that is thinking long term, that wants the best for you, that wants you to advance in life. It might even be a little bit of ego. Like, I want to look good. That was one of the reasons I told myself, let's go running. Like, no, you haven't been running in a while. You could sort of see some fat in places that shouldn't be there, so go. So a bit of vanity as well. But anyway, I always saw this as two voices. But as I was running, as I was finishing this final lap, and I could hear voice A and voice B, I found out that for voice A, for the voice of comfort to succeed, to win the negotiation, it has to convince voice B. It has to convince the disciplined self. Because the disciplined self at the end of the day, or you, is what makes the decision to let go, to stop running. Right? It's not like that voice of comfort is chippering in my ear and makes me stop. It's never been like that. And I always saw it that way. Even when I ate something unhealthy, I was like, should I have the chocolate chip cookie? I shouldn't. I should have the salad. But I've been eating so well and I've been exercising and it's Friday after a long week. Let me get the cookie. I always felt like it won. There as I was running, I don't know whether I was present in my body or running is a bit of a meditation, so maybe the awareness of what's going on in me was a bit better. But there I quite clearly saw that voice B, as I was mentioning, the voice of discipline, it's always there. And it's the one that needs to let go for you to do the undisciplined thing. So it's not a fight between the two voices and who can come up with a better argument. No, 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 no. It's about the undisciplined voice, the voice of comfort, succeeding in persuading the disciplined voice. That's what it's about. So at the end of the day, it's not about maybe silencing the voice at all. And I felt it during the run. So as I decided to go for lap number 3 and have a 6-kilometer run that day, the voice did not subside at all. No, 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 my legs were hurting. It was actually funny as I made the decision to go for another lap for the third one, they started hurting more. I felt myself running out of breath. It was a very surreal experience. The whole time, chattering in my ear, stop running, let it go home, go to your wife. And I didn't do it because in that moment I understood that this disciplined voice or this voice of long-term vision is much stronger. It's so much stronger just because of the inherent fact that it needs to let go for you to do the undisciplined thing, right? There are plenty of times when we are on the brink of making an unhealthy choice or are on the brink of not doing something that we know we should be doing, and we hear this voice and we do it anyway, right? It's not an equal fight. And that really hit home during the run, right? Whenever you're doing something disciplined, I'll call it the higher self, the you who knows what they should be doing, needs to let go. And there's nothing the undisciplined voice, let's call it the lesser you, the more pleasure-seeking you can say that will override it. It does not get overridden. It simply lets go. It makes the decision not to argue, or it says, yeah, it's a good point, let's go. So this was something that I was noticing throughout the remaining days and up until shooting this podcast, that it's present in all facets. I was touching upon the cookie, but there's so many things, whether it's a morning routine that you want to do but you don't feel like doing in the morning, whether it's a bedtime routine to get you primed for sleep. It could even be something like not watching screens an hour before going to sleep because of blue light and how it affects our deep sleep. It's always, whenever you don't make that healthy choice or that choice that you should be making, it's always the higher you letting go. It's never about the higher you being overridden, over-argued, whatever the case may be, no. The pure and simple fact is that you decide, and you can be feeling a hell of a lot of discomfort or a need to really just not be under stress, or, the excuses, there's so many of them. That's what's funny is the voice of comfort is extremely creative. It can come up with an ironclad, bulletproof argument for you to not be doing what you want to be doing. For me, it's usually with physical exercise because I try to exercise 4 to 5 times a week. And whenever whenever I go for a workout number 4 or 5, it's but you already did three. Three's enough. And whenever I do listen to that voice and I don't exercise 4 or 5 times, I do it 2 or 3 when I have a weaker week, let's say, or less strong week, to make sense. It's always about me saying, oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay. So it's not two equal sides arguing. It's not the devil and the angel on your shoulder. There's you, and then there's this like lawyer or advocate for comfort. And the question is whether you listen to them. Because there are times when you do need to listen to them, right? If I go running for 7, 8 days, that's not good for me. 7, 8 days straight. That's just simply not good for me. My knees will not feel well. I have had an operation, and running 7 days in a row would not suit me, I've been told by doctors. So there is a certain point where you need to respect your limits and you need to recover. That's the other side of the coin, right? If I'm working out, I need to eat well and sleep to recover. I can't only be doing the work without the rest. But this often gets muddled and used as an argument by this voice for comfort to persuade you to not really do the discipline thing. So there is a limit. You do need to listen to it in some respects. But you know when you're listening to it too much, you know what those situations are. Some people have issues with food, eating healthily. Some people have issues with not moving. Some people have issues with being on their phones. I get the feeling most people have this vice that they know they're partaking in too much, and they know they should reduce a little bit. And they know that the arguments of the voice of comfort are BS, but they listen to it anyway sometimes. So that's the point I'm trying to make here is realize that you are in control at all times. There's no overriding you. There's no overriding the higher self. It's simply about developing this practice and building a habit of knowing you're in control and then actually making that decision that you should. That's all it's about. And that's discipline in a nutshell. I always saw discipline as a fight. I always saw discipline as this epic clash, this epic struggle going on inside me, like two equal opponents, but they're not equal because the need for comfort is never in control. It's a voice, it's a suggestion, it's a brightly lit, paved, very pleasant, air-conditioned avenue for you to walk. It's this option that's always on the table. You know how they say failure is never an option? I think it was Chael Sonnen, this UFC fighter, who mentioned this, is that failure is always an option. You can always fail. It's the most readily available option, I think were his exact words. And that's the same thing with this. It's always there. That option to let go and to relax, it's always there. Just don't put it on the voice of comfort. Don't put it on this. Don't frame it in a way where you're not really in control of the comfort happening. There's people who say, I need to eat better. And then like 15 minutes after they say that, they open the Twix or the Kit Kat or whatever. I couldn't help myself. Well, yeah, you could have. I mean, eat the Kit Kat. It's not a judgment of people's diets. It's just don't frame yourself as a person who's not in control. You are always in control. Even when you're running in rain and your legs are tired and you don't feel like running, you are in control of whether you continue to run or no. Had I stopped after the first lap or not even gone out, would have been my decision. Me assessing the arguments of, let's call this voice comfort, me assessing the arguments of comfort and saying, yeah, good point, I'll stop. But at the same time, and that's the other side of this, at the same time, you don't have to. And comfort can argue very persuasively. It can make emotional, fact-based, consistent arguments that are hard to go against in a sense. but it's still an argument. It's still presented to you in a way that you are the one that's making a decision. I hope this not did I'm sorry. I hope that all this that I'm talking about did not sound too schizophrenic, like two voices and clashes. It's more of a metaphor to illustrate what I'm talking about. And what I'm talking about, I guess, would be, if I'm reflecting on it, would be responsibility. Taking responsibility for your choices and the decisions you make and the ways you live your life. So that about sums it up. That's all I wanted to talk about. Last time I gave this challenge, I hope some of you participated in it and decided to help somebody with 5 to 10 minutes of your time. I would love to hear how that's going. So if you'd like, leave a comment. And now I'm thinking about a challenge to give to you. I'd like to close each one of these with a small challenge you can do, and a very simple one. Again, find something that's not super difficult for you to do, but that you do need to practice some sort of discipline in it, right? It could be reading a book for 30 minutes. It can be, I don't know, going for a quick run. It could mean doing 10 push-ups. It can mean not having the chips you bought in the store just tonight. And as you do this thing, as you make this disciplined choice, be mindful of what's going on in your mind. And notice this resistance to the discipline, the arguments that are made. Notice that happening. Accept it. Don't try to push it away. Just realize it's only a voice. It's not the one making decisions. It's not the one carrying out actions. And as you see it in this small example, carry it over to the rest of your life, right? But start there. Start with the small, easy, I don't know, thinking what it could be for me. I usually roll myself a cigarette on Fridays. I have this Golden Virginia tobacco. It's one cigarette a week. It's sort of like a meditation for me. It's a vice. So what I will do is this Friday, I will notice the urge to roll one, not do it, hear the arguments, smile at them, and not roll it anyway, but just have another touch point with that voice of comfort. So that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for paying attention. And see you next week.